Welcome everybody back to the Flying Doghouse. It's Fly Day. Of course, every day that ends in a Y is Fly Day. We're Kitty Hawk. We're going to take a look at the Asobo C172 Classic realism mod in conjunction with the Cessna 172. It's available with the deluxe and the professional version of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So let's go ahead and jump into the aircraft. Let's get going. All right, so you've seen this one before. Again, as I mentioned, it's part of the deluxe and pro version of 2020. So you will have to have either one of those editions in order to be able to use the add-in that we're using today, which does make some significant improvements in terms of how the aircraft behaves and handles. So it's well worth the download. So they've done a lot of things with getting performance in line with what you would find in the Pilot Operating Handbook. Speaking of which, there is a full PDF of that, and then there's also some documentation from the FAA that's also included. And then there's also a changelog document that's included. So they've definitely pulled their weight in terms of the documentation front, that's for sure. So anyway, let's jump in the airplane. All right, so we're not going to go through and do a cold and dark start of this. Starting a Cessna is pretty doggone straightforward, right? So it's fuel mixture, magnetos, cut on warning lights, clear prop, all those fun things. For now, what we're going to do is Control E. And while we're waiting for that stuff to come up, I'm going to cut on the nav lights and the landing lights and the beacon. And we can get our Garmin gear here up and going. Let the engine warm up. Make sure we've got our parking brake on, and we do. All right, so it'll take it a minute or two to connect to the database. Graphics on the inside of the cockpit. Very easy to read in terms of the instrument panel. Very nicely done. Again, this is one of my favorite general aviation aircraft. I fly this all the time with our group flights. And I've never quite understood, as highly utilized as this aircraft is in the real world in terms of being a trainer, why folks choose to poo-poo flying it. It's a lot of fun. At any rate, there is definitely a reason why flight schools use this aircraft. And it's certainly a great way for you to be able to cut your teeth in terms of getting into flying and simming and using your instruments and getting used to scanning and doing all those fun things to be able to safely fly around in the sim. All right. Let's see if we can manage to start our taxi here without chopping the ground crew in half. Yep, there we go. So we'll taxi out this way. Garmin still has not aligned, so I'm being a little impatient here, I guess. But that's okay. All right, while we're doing our taxi, I'm going to get flaps to 15 or 14. Yeah, it's 15. All right, and we'll get ourselves turned here onto the active. Ourselves lined up here. Make a last peek. All right, I think we're good to go. Okay, flaps at 15. All right, so we are going to do a pretty healthy climb out here to stay away from the power lines, which are not too far from the airfield. And we got airspeed alive here. And we are up, positive rate. So a little bit more distance here. We'll turn out a little bit. Also stay away from the cell phone towers. Make our way over here into the Atlantic. And we're going to continue our climb out to about 3,000 feet. There are flaps up here. We don't need those anymore. Anyway, this is analog cockpit here that I'm using. Really enjoy the analog gauges. In real world, what I was accustomed to. In this particular case, it's okay to be an analog man in a digital world, I guess. Thanks to Joe Walsh. Alright, so we're going to continue our climb out here. We're now heading south-southeast toward Kill Devil Hill. And if you are not familiar with the geography in this particular part of the U.S. and the North Carolina coast, it's a very, very large sand dune. The state park, great place to visit. Take a hang gliding lesson, fly a kite. Definitely won't sandals or beach shoes. That sand gets hot during the summer. Alright, we'll continue to make our way south-southeast here for a couple of minutes. Continuing our climb out, we're now at about 1,600 feet. Vertical speed around 1,000 feet per minute ish. And once we get to 3,000, we'll go ahead and do a quick stall test here. Just worthy of note, this airplane will go into an unrecoverable spin with the mod. Keep that in mind as you are doing your practicing of your stalls. It will nose over and drop the left wing. So be prepared to use those recovery techniques. Alright, so about 2,500 feet. So let's continue our climb here. Let's jump outside the airplane. Take a look around. There's the dune. Definitely worth visiting in Google Earth as well. It's a very, very cool place. Alright, 2,600-ish. Back in the plane here. Alright, we made it up to 3,000 feet. Alright, so I'm going to level off here for a minute. Turn ourselves back out into the Atlantic, away from the coastline and the condos and rental properties here. And then we'll go ahead and do our stall test. All right, so I'm just going to simply, pull back on the stick and maintain wings level. And stall speed is about 39 to 40. You will get a warning horn to go off at around 40. And it is going to have a tendency to drop nose and bank left. All right, airspeed continuing to come off with the back pressure. And there we go. Got our airspeed back up here. And it's not determined to kill you, but you do need to give it its proper amount of respect. All right, so we've gone a little bit further south than I had intended, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and start our turn back toward first flight. We'll put the Manio General Aviation Airport here off our nose, and we'll use that as a navigation visual checkpoint here. Proceed for a couple of minutes toward this airfield, and then we'll start our turn back toward runway 6 at first flight. All right, so we're at 3,200 feet, so we do need to be dropping some altitude. And I think I had mentioned this in an earlier video. I don't remember off the top of my head which one. Now, if you're flying this particular aircraft, but really general aviation aircraft in general, it's not good standard practice to side slip to drop off excess altitude while you're making your way back to make your circuit and then turn on finals. If you're having to side slip to get yourself positioned for the runway, then you probably haven't done as good a job as you could have done in terms of getting the aircraft configured and ready for landing. But I mean, you can side slip this plane. It will do that. And sometimes you have to deal with those flight conditions depending on your, if you've got crosswind going on. All right, so we're making our way down here. We're about 1,900 feet now. Get ourselves fairly well situated for our turn to final for runway 6. Go ahead and come off the throttle here for a minute. I'm going to add some back pressure here to start bleeding off some airspeed. Get ourselves down into the white arc so that we can start deploying some flaps to further slow down, get some more drag going. Alright, so we're now inside the white arc. So we'll go ahead and deploy our first level of flap. And we'll go ahead and add 15 degrees as well. Alright, we're now down about to 1,100 feet, so we're continuing to progress our way downward nicely here. Should be giving ourselves a good runway picture here for our final. Okay. Again, local terrain and obstruction awareness is always important. So for this particular airfield, there are high capacity power line pylons on either end of the runway, so they do come into play on departure and also on approach. And you might need to come in a little steeper than you would anticipate. All right. Almost in a good situation here. We're getting there. Okay, our airspeed down to about 70. We're in good shape. Nice good safety clearance here over the high power lines. Continue to drop down here. Take ourselves over this access road. Start rolling out here, and we're going to put ourselves down here on runway 3. I said runway 6 earlier. It's runway 3. All right, there we go. Back safely down on the ground. Nice smooth landing there. Again, there are no surprises with this 172. It's a lot of fun to fly. Great for group flights. Good visibility out of the airplane. And you do have your Garmin devices if you choose to take advantage of those. Or you can rely on your gauges and your chart and stick and rudder and have a good fly. All right, we're gonna the aircraft parked here just in front of this hold short line. We'll go ahead and kill the motor, jump outside the plane, put our flaps back up. All right, so there you have it. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video. It's been useful and maybe made you aware of an add-in that was available that you didn't know about. So definitely I recommend on both the aircraft and the free add-in. I'll include a link in the description below for you to be able to download this off of Flightsim.to. Thanks for being along with the flight today. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. That helps us out as we march toward our goal of 1,000 and more in terms of subscribers. Lots more planned. Glad to have you along. Hope everybody's keeping well. Until next time, take care, everybody. Cheers, y'all.